This is part 3 of a series where I cover an iceberg chart I made concerning Undertale and DeltaRune. If you haven't seen any of the previous parts, do so before watching this video. This video also contains spoilers for Undertale and DeltaRune. If you haven't played the games or certain parts of it and don't want to be spoiled, I recommend playing it first. This video also contains swearing and is recommended for ages 13 and up. All images, music, and footage are owned by their respective owners. Don't go after or harass anyone mentioned in this video. Hey everyone, we are back with Tier 3 of the Iceberg. I have been told of the quality of my mic and sound in the background, and I have noticed it before. I'm still new to this whole thing, so I'm trying to work it out, but we'll see how that goes as the series continues. So, with that out of the way, let's get back into an overstuffed UnderTale and DeltaRune Iceberg explained. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. As some of you who have been keeping track with Undertale and DeltaRune may have seen, it has recently been announced that DeltaRune's official release, with chapters 3, 4, and 5, will all be released on all platforms on June 5th, costing $25. For one, super excited as you can probably imagine. And two, as far as if I'll include any stuff revolving around these chapters, I'll add those entries once the update / compilation is released on the 10th anniversary. So now with that out of the way, let's dive into Tier 3, the Ruins or the Speedrunner. You decide that no matter how good these characters are, you've become so obsessed with the game, you just want to explore every possibility, every call, every version of the routes. You go through endless playthroughs and complete multiple challenges in shorter and shorter time. This tier will contain information a bit more obscure, as well as include tactics players and speedrunners use during Undertale and DeltaRune. And this tier will talk about other people who have worked on Undertale and DeltaRune but don't get as much attention as Toby or Temmie. In this land, only eyes blinded by darkness can see the way. This is a line that is seen in the first area of the Dark World. This sort of implies that in the Light World, the Dark World would be too dark to see through, and can only be seen within the Dark World itself. Miss Pipis. There is a 1% chance of a Miss Pipis to replace a regular Pipis. There is nothing special about it outside of a pink bow. Steven after not surviving. Steven after not surviving is a troll pasta that's one of the many jokes and theories that parodies the Sans' Nest theory. This theory states that Sans is Steven Universe. In this shitpost, it explains that Steven became Sans after he contracted cancer and got a jacket after getting cold, and then died and being buried underground, leaving on in his new persona, Sans, which stands for Steven after not surviving. UnderFell and UnderSwap. UnderFell and UnderSwaps are perhaps a few of, if not the most well-known Undertale AUs. UnderSwap is a switch-up AU originally created by Popcorn Prince, which switches the roles and personalities of characters like Sans and Papyrus, Toriel and Asgore, Alpha San Undyne, and so much more. With that said, the popular interpretation of UnderSwap has drastically departed from the original AU, as will be mentioned in Tier 8. UnderSwap is nicknamed Blueberry. UnderFell, on the other hand, is an AU originally created by Vic the Underfella, that has a lot of the colors red, black, and gold, and the main concept of the AU is where Flowey is helping you through the underground, where the monsters are more aggressive and embrace the killer be killed ideology. UnderFell Sans is nicknamed Edge. While both creators have deleted the original posts that started these AUs, from what I heard, Vic has returned, and while they do have their own version of the AU, they welcome other versions and interpretations of Underfell. These AUs are very influential in creating different variations of other Undertale AUs. Newsletters. Both people who are signed up and on Toby Fox's Fangamer website, Toby will send out newsletters every few months and on anniversaries. You can sign up for it with your email and can select a different tier. Minimal subscribers will only be told when a new chapter of DeltaRune is coming out. Normal subscribers will get seasonal letters as well as being updated on new info on the games and events. Super members will get instant updates on any project Toby Fox worked on, even if it's not related to Undertale and DeltaRune. And truck freaks will be given even more stuff. Sham referencing Gaster. After defeating Jevil and going to Sham's shop, they'll say how they were forced to lock Jevil away. They say, "As the court mage, and his only companion, I was forced to lock him away. Or rather, lock us all away in his own words. Since that time, the strange words he said have stuck inside my cotton, and my view of this world has become darker, yet darker." These two words are in the word search puzzle in Snowden Forest. On the list of words to find, the word is misspelled using a U instead of an E. It also appears in DeltaRune Chapter 2 spelling puzzles, which showcased ICE when done with them. Toby answered Mettaton's essay. During Mettaton X's boss fight, he'll give you an essay where you can type anything you want. If you type in Toby, he'll say, "Toby, what the hell is that? Sounds sexy." But it refused wordplay. But it refused is a wordplay for when the soul literally refuses back together in Asriel's boss fight. Leading brand UnderTale-Type software. If the game has any issues loading or just crashes, a message will pop up saying, "Leading brand UnderTale-Type software, the program name for UnderTale, has crashed." Funny cheat. During Spamton Neo's boss fight, there's a move you can do where after holding the big shot technique, you can spam the button again to fire more big shots, a glitch which has been dubbed as Funny Cheat. After doing this, Spamton becomes enraged with this, and his face will turn red with smoke coming out of his head. UnderTale. UnderTale is a popular basic change AU originally made by Mimi Pipinski, where instead of the monsters being sealed underground, they're sealed in space, specifically on the moon. Monsters have a more space-themed attire and wear more capes and lawn-draping clothes, with the colors being white, gold, and deep blue. Their attacks are more based on space and stars, and when they die, they turn into stardust. The AU is well known for its artistic style, the music associated with it made by Jeffrey Watkins, and the unique idea of it. Touhou Inspiration. Touhou Project, or just Touhou for short, is a Japanese bullet hell shoot-'em-up video game series made by independent developer team Shanghai Alice. Toby is a massive Touhou fan and has been since elementary school. He's even made an OC named Apple Girlington who he wrote songs for. It would take too long to explain all the references and inspirations, but to give a few examples, UnderTale and DeltaRune's bullet hell elements are very much inspired by Touhou. But along with that, the music is also inspired by Touhou music, specifically stuff with Undyne, like Spirit of Justice and Battle Against a True Hero, which uses a bunch of trumpets similar to Touhou's music. Asriel's boss fight is also inspired by Marissa, since they both share a rainbow/stars aesthetic, and his design and name seem to be inspired by Serial. On May 23rd, 2018, Toby was able to meet Touhou's creator, Zune, and talk over a few beers. He was surprised that Zune liked playing UnderTale and enjoyed Undyne's music. And that's not all. In the last few years, Toby revealed that he and Zune have collaborated on a track, Yuen, Owen Has a Hero, that appears in the officially sanctioned Touhou fan game, Touhou Danmaku Kagura, Fantasia Lost. The part Zune worked on consisted of his rendition of Battle Against a True Hero, which is very fitting considering it was based on Touhou. And that's not the only one, because this year, they collabed with each other again, with Tobo creating Necrolovania and Zune creating Megalovania of the Empty Course, with obvious Megalovania inspirations behind both tracks. Papyrus is not what he seems. There is a lot about Papyrus that makes him almost as mysterious as Sans, and gives hints that he is holding back against his enemies. Even in Genocide, where the player is clearly dangerous, Papyrus refuses to kill you, and even gives you the choice to change. Not to mention that in Genocide, both of his stats are 17 lower than a normal battle, where his stats are attack 20, defense 20. Even more interestingly, Sans is supposed to be the weakest enemy in the game, and Papyrus's normal stats are 20 times that of his brothers, and as will be discussed in a bit, he might be hiding even more of his attacks. Image_friend. If you look closely in one of the black areas in one of the rooms in Queen's basement, you'll see a creepy smiling face with yellow and pink eyes similar to Spamton. The image's file is image_friend, and no one seems to know why this is in the game, but people have come up with theories. JoJo References. There are a few references to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in UnderTale. most of which can be found in Mad Dummy's boss fight. This includes saying a word 3 times in a row, which is pretty common in JoJo, where they yell out, "Futile, futile, futile!" which is sometimes something that the main villain Dio says, "Muda, muda, muda!" which can be translated to futile and useless. There's also a moment where Mad Dummy throws a single knife, misses, and says how he's out. Another reference to the climactic battle between Dio, who uses knives, and Jotaro in Stardust Crusaders. Another lesser known reference is with the ice cream cards, where the game says, "Ora! You rip out the punch card, your hands are burning," which references Jotaro's battle cry of "Hora! Ora! Ora!" It's also said that part of Mettaton X's design could have been inspired by JoJo because they both have a belt buckle with a heart. His cheeks could have been inspired by Darby, and the colors for his overworld sprite could have been inspired by Tony Starby's stand. Susie Is Suzy. When you talk to Clamgirl in the epilogue of the pacifist route in the Nintendo Switch version of UnderTale, she states how you haven't met Susie, before telling you that your time to meet her is fast approaching before disappearing. This was the last set of UnderTale content before the release of DeltaRune, where one of the main characters is Susie, spelled differently with an S-I-E at the end instead of a Z-Y. And if you remember, talking to Clamgirl makes the Don't Forget note appear in Sciences Lab. It's widely considered among fans that Susie could most likely be a different version of Susie from DeltaRune. This is possible since Rudy is said to be an UnderTale but died before the player fell into the underground. Flowey is an analogy of the player. During the genocide route, Flowey explains his life before Frisk fell underground. In this, he explains that he had the power to save and reset, which he discovered after he tried to end his own life again and again. At first, he used it to make friends with the other monsters and solve all their problems, but after a while, it got too boring and predictable, so he decided to have fun and experiment on what would have happened if he started toying, hurting, or flat out kill other monsters. This could be an analogy of players and communities both inside and outside of UnderTale, as there will be games where you quick save and then go on a huge killing spree of various people including NPCs before going back and saving. Usually this is caused by boredom, which leads to curiosity of what could happen, and trying to squeeze every bit of content in the game, even if it means doing wrong things. Flowey's Echo Flower. If you backtrack at the end of the Echo Flower room, you'll be able to go to an Echo Flower where Flowey will say what Toriel says after you fight with her. What the flower says depends on what route you're on. If you spare Toriel, he'll say how she'll likely forget about you and move on to the next human child. If you kill her, he'll quote what she said as she died. And when you're doing the genocide route, the Echo Flower is silent. Alarm Clock dialogue confirms Flowey leaves the underground. In the Alarm Clock app, we see that the characters from UnderTale had a Christmas party, which happens after the pacifist run, and is talked about in all conversations from different POVs. What's interesting about this is that Flowey was also asked about what the party was like, and he talks of him seeing Toriel on the ground. This implies that while at the end of the game, Azio says he'll look after the flowers, after he turned back to Flowey, he may have left the underground with the other monsters and now lives among them. How did Frisk escape the underground in the neutral route? A question that has plagued UnderTale fans since its release. The game has stated many times that for a human or monster to leave the underground, either one needs to have both a human and monster soul. However, at the end of a neutral run, Asgore, the monster who you can kill and take his soul, dies, and his soul is shattered by Flowey. Therefore, Frisk shouldn't be able to leave the underground, yet they somehow do so anyway. Because of that, this has been something that's been speculated to death in the community for a long time, and there are many theories to explain this. Fighting Asriel without saving. If you fight Asriel without ever saving, the text flavor during Asriel's second phase will say, "Saving over Asriel's file seems like the only way to defeat him, but having never saved before, you lack the power to do it." Halberd Pun. The weapon that Berdly wields is called a halberd, a pun on the fact that Berdly is, well, a bird. Mad Mew Mew Super Mario World reference. Whenever you do a no-hit run when encountering Mad Mew Mew, she'll say some words which are meant to be a reference to the names of levels within Special Zone from Super Mario World. Mew Mew. Mew Mew is the nickname Alphys gave the cat that she thinks is drinking her milk. The nickname obviously coming from Mew Mew Kissy Cutie. That word appears on UnderTale's window title before fighting Photoshop Flowey. Vacation to Hell. When talking to Spamton in his shop, at some point he'll tell us to take a vacation straight to hell. Which could be a reference to Burger Pants in UnderTale, where he says how he doesn't have any more vacation days, thus he can't go to hell. Rude Buster does more damage if you press Z. If you press Z while the beam is after an enemy, the damage will increase more than it should. Sands and Papyrus are remnants of Gaster. Game Theory made a series of videos talking about who and where Gaster could possibly be. The conclusion MatPat made was that Gaster got split into Sans and Papyrus, and that each of them represent the two halves of Gaster's brain and personality, with Sans representing the left, verbal or logical side of the brain, and Papyrus representing the right, visual or creative side of the brain. Hush Puppy. Hush Puppy is a consumable item that can be obtained by giving a hot dog to the dog behind the rightmost door at Mettaton Resort, and can be used to end the endogyny fight early. You surely would have been blasted too. After sparing Papyrus in a genocide run and dating him, when you check the bones, Papyrus says how it's good that he didn't use his special attack, as he states that "you surely would have been blasted too" before he stops himself. This implies that he too can use Gaster blasters, and that's what could have been used in the special attack. This is further implied in the UnderTale art book when we see a skull-looking bone in his box of bones, which says, "probably not a skull." You're really kind of a freak, huh? If you reload after killing Sans twice, he'll say, "that expression that you're wearing." You're really kind of a freak, huh? Undyne Neutral Route Dialogue. Depending on which monsters you killed in the neutral route, Undyne will talk about a monster who you killed. These pieces of dialogue give us some interesting info on how she feels about others. If you didn't kill any monster except for one of the following, she'll say something about them and say how they were killed because of a single human. If you only kill Snowdrake, she'll comment on how he's a teenage comedian who fell in the wrong crowd. If you only kill Shiren, she'll say how she was just learning to sing. If Doggo was killed, she'll mention how he always made her laugh. If only Lesser Dog was slain, she'll say how he wanted nothing more than affection. If Dogami and Doggeressa were killed, she'll comment how sweet and loving they were to each other. And if only Greater Dog was killed, she'll say how he wanted nothing more than to play. If all K9 Royal Guards were killed, she'll say, "the Snowden K9 unit had been completely decimated. My troops and friends destroyed. Is that fun?" The most unique one is when you kill Papyrus, where instead of shouting a speech of how she'll destroy you, she'll instead stop and talk about how he's disappeared and hasn't answered any of her calls, or how Sans has disappeared. Ending with when the human steps forward, she will kill them. Sideways attack power. If you compliment Lancer too many times when you first fight him, the game will state, instead of going up or down, his attack power goes sideways? This also makes the damage point sideways. Punch Card Exploit. The exploit is often used in speedruns in order to skip dialogue and cutscenes. By accessing the menu and punch card really fast, the game will think you can roam freely and will let you do so. You can also use it to go back to earlier spots through doors. Toby said how he was originally going to patch it, but decided best not to. Wrist Protector. Wrist Protector is an item used to skip text faster than usual. You can get it by accessing the Dark World in less than 8 minutes. It'll be on the floor in the first room. Clicking Poppup Ads. A neat feature in Chapter 2 is that while finding the pop-ups, whenever a pop-up ad appears, you can use your mouse on the X icon and close it. Fred Wood. Fred Wood is a video game developer who has been working on DeltaRune since Chapter 2, and mostly works on things in the overworld. A few of the things he has worked on are the vase mechanics from Chapter 2 and the Newbert Room. Other games he has worked on / developed are Nuclear Throne, Ultra Bugs, Love 1, 2, and 3, Polstario, Mort Story, and Mort's Dream Jump. Jean Canels. Jean Canels is a video game developer who joined DeltaRune's development starting in Chapter 2. He handles most battle designs and some of the bullet attacks. Some of the things he has worked on include the Giga Queen encounter and Spamton Neo's angry reaction to the Big Shot cheat. Other games he has worked on include, but are not limited to, Death's Gambit and Secret. Taxiderby. Taxiderby, or Juju, is a video game developer, designer, writer, and self-proclaimed belligerent trash mage who works on DeltaRune. They handle a variety of things including bullets. They were the one responsible for the Spamton Cherub. They have also worked on Idra and the Little Fish, Lucid Drifter, Moment to Midnight, Puro, Pip Sweep, and Electra. Chess. Chess is a streamer and game developer who has been working as Toby's little helper since late in Undertale's development. She has drawn the original image of Berdly's Dark World form and has worked on pixel art for overworld sprites like the Dark World forms of Susie and Berdly. Gigi. Gigi is an artist and good friend of Toby Fox. They've helped in the development of Undertale and DeltaRune's concept art, testing for the games, and outfit designs for characters like Undyne and the Dark World costumes for Chris and Susie. They also designed the Mettaton poster. Other things they've worked on include Cucumber Quest and Lady of the Shard. Give me Noelle Tea. Despite having her own comments on the Rousey and Susie teas, there isn't any actual way for her to drink the tea due to her technically no longer being in the party at that point in the gameplay. UnderTale has 93 endings. Believe it or not, there are almost 100 endings in Undertale, 93 to be exact, unless you want to include the hacker ending, in which case it's 94. This includes not only hard mode and the neutral routes, but also branches from the genocide and pacifist routes. By the way, I was going to say something, but I forgot. After talking to Sans at Grillby's, before he leaves, Sans says, "By the way, I was going to say something, but I forgot." It's a strange line to say in the middle of nowhere, but one theory states that he says this in order to not look weird to the other NPCs in the room after freezing time. Elements. Elements are a hidden property in DeltaRune where certain party armor can protect one of the characters against certain bullets. As of now, only Element 1 and 6 are revealed to be Holy/Alec and Cat/Puppy, with other elements being speculated on. Q&As. From time to time, Undertale has Q&As released where the cast of Undertale can answer questions either from fans or just from the interviewer. Night Night takes more damage if she is asleep. An interesting detail while fighting Night Night is that if you manage to get her to fall asleep, you can actually deal more damage to her than you usually do. Equipping armor during Mettaton X's fight. Every time you equip armor in Mettaton X's fight, you'll gain 1500 ratings for fashion, which allows you to beat the fight before Mettaton's essay. Undertale sprites drawn in MS Paint. In a Q&A, Toby was asked what he used to draw the graphics, to which he responded saying that he used MS Paint, while Temmie and the other artists used graphics scale. You stop to smell the flowers. South of the vent room where you encounter Muffet, there was a lone cactus with flowers on it. If you time the interaction button perfectly, you'll get the line, "You stop to smell the flowers." Shadow Crystal flavor text. When you observe the Shadow Crystal in both the dark and light worlds, text will display which shows things you can't see at the moment. Whenever you're in the dark world, you see the rooms that the dark world takes place in, like the toy room or the library. However, when you're in the light world, not only would the crystal show your hand missing through it, but there's also a detail where a version of Susie is glaring at you coldly. I know what you did. If you look in the trash can of Alphys's lab, the game will state there's a message crumpled up in the trash can. It's in a strange kind of handwriting. It says, "I know what you did." It's likely to have been written by Flowey, with the message being a reference to the determination experiments in the True Lab. This is kind of in line with Flowey, considering that he does like to mock the player and the choices they make. You just remembered something funny. Depending on your actions, when you inspect the bag of dog food in Alphys's lab, the text will be different. On a pacifist route, inspecting it will say, "It's a bag of dog food. It's half full." If you're on a neutral route, it will instead say, "It's a half-empty bag of dog food." And if you have a kill count of at least 21 and have killed the canine unit, the narration will state, "It's a half-empty bag of dog food." You just remembered something funny. Strange tweets. Toby has posted some strange things before, including some stuff on Twitter or X. Most of these are just meant to be funny, but what this is specifically talking about is a series of tweets that were posted, starting off with a thread of tweets made by Toby stating, "The success of Undertale has been incredible. Thank you to the artists, the fans, and to my friends for supporting me in 2015. But lately, something has left me feeling unsettled. A burning, inexplicable feeling. You could say, its very nature is shrouded in darkness. Then, on October 30th, 2018, the official UnderTale Twitter account looked like it was hijacked. The mysterious person tweeted,
"Welcome. Have you been looking for me? How wonderful. I have been looking for you as well. I have something I want to show you. Something I think you will find very, very interesting. But it is not complete yet. No, it is far from complete. Thus, I have a small favor to ask of you. Return here in 24 hours. At that time, I will ask you a few questions. Then, using your responses, you will approach its realization. Thank you very much for your time. I will be in contact again soon."
The next day, on October 31st, 2018, the mystery person sent various tweets, with the last one being a link to DeltaRune.com, with the download link for the demo of DeltaRune Chapter 1. Once the game got released, there was a lot of hype behind it. What's even more interesting is that the tweets seem to have a speech pattern similar to Gaster, which makes the connection between DeltaRune and Gaster even greater. PS UnderTale. Project Spacetime, or PS UnderTale, is a take on UnderTale made by many artists and contributors with Space Fluff at the helm. In this version of UnderTale, the monsters came from another planet instead of coming from the same planet with humans, and were banished to an abandoned outpost instead of a moon, after their homeworld was destroyed. The plot is mostly the same as UnderTale, but also has plenty of differences, like different ending routes, a subplot with Mettaton and his cousins, and Burger Pants no longer working for him. I don't want to spoil everything because I have played the game myself, and I really enjoyed it, so I'll link it in the description below. Napstablook Is Invincible. This refers to the fact that even in the genocide route, you can't kill Napstablook due to the fact that there are ghosts who doesn't have a body like Mad Mew Mew or Glad Dummy in the genocide route, and Mettaton, the latter two of which both take damage and die. During the True Pacifist epilogue, they mentioned how they saw a flash of light that wanted to come in, but they just closed the blinds, meaning that they weren't absorbed when Asriel became absolute god of hyperdeath. It's debated whether or not this is because Napstablook is invincible, or because they didn't let the light in. Noelle. Noelle is an illustrator and character artist that gave the character designs for Sweet Cap'n Cake and Task Manager. They were one of the many fans of UnderTale and DeltaRune, and would then get the job to design the characters, and is the reason for the trio existing, as they made 3 designs for a character with a boombox design, and when they showed all 3 to Toby, he decided to use all 3. Room_water_redacted. Room_water_redacted, or room_272, is an unused area/room in UnderTale. Within this room, Premonition plays, and there is a strange figure who says redacted in lowercase wingdings. If you try to leave the room, you'll encounter the sound test room. A lot of people believe that this could be the true form of Gaster, which has some leeway considering he's the only character to speak in wingdings, besides Gaster's entry 17, and when it speaks, it uses the same noise as Gaster does, all making this very likely. Kenju. Kenju is an artist who has made art for video games. They were a hyper tester and tile artist in UnderTale who worked on areas 3 and 4. Other games they have worked on are Rivals of Aether and Katana Zero. Marigo. Marigo is a pixel artist who made some background art for UnderTale. They made art for the Gate to the Surface, the background shot overlooking the ruins, the overlook of the castle and waterfall, the overlook of the core and hotlands, the background of Bratty and Caddy's shop, the background of Mettaton's restaurant, and the shot of the sunrise on the surface. Magnolia Porter. Magnolia Porter is a freelance artist and comic illustrator. She has helped in creating designs of a few of the monsters. She has worked on Gift Drop with some help from Toby, Ice Cap, Jerry, Monster Kid, Snowdrake, and Vulcan. Outside of UnderTale, she has worked on The Golden Boar, Monster Pulse, and Tiffany's Griffin. Mystery Man and Redacted on vinyl cover. On the vinyl cover for UnderTale, there's a heart that is shaped with various sprites from the game. Interestingly enough, this includes the Mystery Man and Redacted sprites into it as well. Canatine's designing characters. Tumblr artist Canatines made the card characters for a card game. Toby asked if he could use these designs, and the artist was very surprised that the characters gained a life of their own. Royal Sciences LLC. Royal Sciences LLC is the copyright holder for UnderTale and DeltaRune. September 15th, 2021 Livestream Build Differences. During the 6th anniversary of Livestream, there are a few noticeable differences between the version of the game shown in the livestream and the actual game itself. For example, when trying to choose your vessel's favorite type of food, instead of saying pain, it says nacho flamin' cheese. And when you say for the first time, instead of saying Chris as usual, it says empty. Lena Raine. Lena Raine is a music composer who makes music for video games. She's perhaps most well known for working on most of Minecraft's most recent soundtrack additions. However, she's also worked with Toby Fox on a few songs for DeltaRune Chapter 2. She worked on Attack of the Killer Queen alongside Marcy Neighbors and Cyber Battles solo. Other things she has worked on include but aren't limited to Celeste, Sackboy, A Big Adventure, and Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns. Name redacted in credits. In the credits, there's an unnamed name in the credits referred to as Name Redacted. This was a specific request made by someone. Clyde Mandelin. Clyde Mandelin, otherwise known as Tomato or Motto for short, is a professional translator and friend of Toby Fox who helped in the localization of UnderTale and DeltaRune from English to Japanese. He's also the person that wrote the Legends of Localization books that I talked about in Tier 2. Giga Queen's Hidden Note Damage Third Phase. If you avoid getting any damage during Giga Queen's boss fight, you'll get a secret phase where you and Queen have increased damage. Gaster created DeltaRune. This theory suggests the idea that Gaster created the universe of DeltaRune as part of his experiments, which may be what Entry 17 refers to and why Muse_Smile and other Gaster references appear. Splendid Land. Splendid Land, otherwise known as Samanthule, is a video game developer and friend of Toby Fox. She did plenty of concept art for DeltaRune. She did art for the Ambulance, Pop-Ups, the Hacker, Cyberworld, and more characters that didn't make it in the finished product. Other things Splendid Land has worked on, / is working on, include Amazing Treasure Valley, the Mega Man Sprite game, Mickey's Stick Smasher, and even made the original Don't Talk to Me or My Son Ever Again meme. Clairvoyeur. Clairvoyeur is a sprite animator and programmer who did the sprite animations and testing for UnderTale. EasyNam. EasyNam is a software engineer who is a game dev, artist, and composer as a hobby. They helped with overworld art in UnderTale. Guzusuru. Angela Sham, otherwise known as Guzusuru, is an artist and animator who's most well known for their animations for Homestuck. They served as an animation assistant in UnderTale and helped with the animation for Asgore's spear reveal. Chris is terrified about Spam to Neo due to them being able to relate about freedom. This theory suggests that the reason why Spam to Neo made Chris feel uncomfortable is because Spamton's strings in supposed lack of free will reminds them of how they have strings attached to them by the player and soul. Sans' footwear inconsistency. In-game, Sans wears slippers, and in the overworld, we can see they appear white. However, most merchandise and art like to depict him with pink slippers, and in his tarot card, they're blue. But in his Steam card, he's wearing blue sneakers instead. Rousey quoting Flowey. While in the tutorial in Chapter 1, Rousey will say, "See that heart? That's your soul, the culmination of your being." This is a similar line to Flowey when you first meet him when he says, "See that heart? That is your soul, the culmination of your being." It's likely this was said because both characters are introducing you to how the gameplay works, but it's still an interesting connection. Loox Eyewalker. If you check Loox, it'll say, "Don't pick on him. Family home, Eyewalker." As a result, Lux's full name is Loox Eyewalker, a pun on the Star Wars character Luke Skywalker. Child Noelle and keyboard puzzle scene. In Chapter 2, there is a scene where Chris and Noelle walk on different sides of the room to solve a puzzle. During this scene, Noelle talks of when they were younger. While she's talking, you can see a silhouette of her when she was a younger kid. The only time we've ever seen a similar silhouette is when Burley is talking about his experience of winning the spelling bee, while we also see a child silhouette of himself. But what makes this even more interesting is how we don't see a younger version of Chris. Everdrade. Everdrade is an artist who helped to make assets and animations for Photoshop Flowey, as well as making the UnderTale release trailer. Flashy Goodness. Flashy Goodness is a video game developer who works on the music, designs, and programs for the projects they work on. They provided help with the programming of UnderTale. Other projects they have worked on include but are not limited to the Rivals of Aether series, Super Secret Service, and Bean Dreams. Leon Arnott. Leon Arnott is an occasional web game maker. He provided programming help for the production of UnderTale, and has also helped in porting the game to Mac OS X. Other things he has worked on / is working on include but not limited to Twine and You Are Spam Zapper 3.1. Lightner Darkner sprite differences. In DeltaRune, the characters from the light world such as Susie, Toriel, and others remain black and white like in UnderTale. Meanwhile, characters from the dark world like Rousey, Keen, Lancer, and others have a colored sprite. In the UnderTale 6th anniversary livestream, Toby explained that the reason for this is to distinguish the characters and show where they came from. Papyrus's battle body references. On Papyrus's shirt, you can find a symbol. The ordinary fan might not immediately recognize the symbol, but if you're an Earthbound fan, or someone who has played the Super Smash Bros. Games, you'll recognize that the symbol also appeared on Starman's suit. Additionally, Papyrus's battle pose could be a reference to the Oingo Boingo brothers from JoJo, and referring to his costume as his battle body is a reference to Sigma from Mega Man X3, who refers to his suit as his battle body. Purple Guy. When you talk to Pizza Pants outside of Icy's Pizza, he'll talk about one of the characters who is called Purple Guy. This led to a lot of people believing that this is a reference to Five Nights at Freddy's because there's a character named William Afton, who's also referred to as Purple Guy, who is depicted as purple, working at a pizza place and wearing a mascot uniform. However, on the 6th anniversary livestream, Toby claimed that he didn't know what the reference was. He could possibly be joking, but there's no way of knowing for sure. Gamemaker Studios. Gamemaker Studios is the video game creating software that was used to create UnderTale and DeltaRune. 3D Toriel. During the development of UnderTale, they had a hi-fi 3D Toriel sketched out. The render was made by Chelsea Saunders, who claims it's the best thing she ever made. Toby has claimed that this is canon somehow, but it could be a joke for all we know. Actually, it's probably most definitely a joke. It has appeared on UnderTale's release for both the PC and Nintendo versions, and the 6th anniversary livestream. Bold and Brash in DeltaRune. In the classroom you end up inside of in Chapter 1, there's a drawing on a door to a cabinet. Due to the resemblance, some people believe this is a reference to Bold and Brash, a painting that Squidward made in SpongeBob. During the 6th anniversary livestream, Toby somewhat confirmed this, though also said that it was a drawing that Gerson's son, Alvin, made when he was young. Delta Traveler. Delta Traveler is an UnderTale / DeltaRune fan game created by Violet Bunny. It's a fan game based on the Chris Where Are We meme, where Chris, Susie, and Rousey travel through different worlds, each section being a different video game. Some of the games include UnderTale, Earthbound, Toontown, and TS UnderSwap. Rousey blushing when near Chris. Whenever Chris stands near Rousey for a certain amount of time, Rousey will start blushing. In the files of DeltaRune, there was a sprite of Chris blushing while walking, which was supposed to be used during the arcade session of Chapter 2. Does Papyrus wear a cape or a scarf? A lot of artists, when trying to draw UnderTale, sometimes have a hard time trying to decide what a specific element could be. One of these hard things is Papyrus' scarf or cape. He looks like he is wearing a scarf, but both the way his battle sprite looks, and how in one overworld sprite his scarf is blowing in the wind, it almost resembles a cape. It's possible that on the one hand, it could be a scarf because he lives in a snowy environment, but on the other, it could be a short cape due to the whole royal guard aesthetic. Gaster caused Jevel's insanity. The basis for this theory is how, one day, Jevel saw someone and his outlook on life changed. You could argue that someone meeting Gaster would change their whole view of the world, and Gaster's theme can even be heard in Jevel's theme. Flowey Stalking. When you walk back after encountering special events in Undertale, there's a chance to find Flowey going into the ground, showing that he's been watching you the entire time. Flowey's Ronald McDonald lines. The various noises that Flowey makes are sampled sounds from Ronald McDonald talking in an old McDonald's commercial.
Hark! That's a wonderful idea!
That's a wonderful idea!
The noises from the amalgamates also come from the same commercial.
Some triple thick McDonald's shakes?
Alphys Takes Action. Alphys Takes Action is an Undertale fan song made by Robin Blend. This song is often used as the hypothetical boss fight theme for Alphys in the Genocide run, as you can't actually fight her at any point in the game. Hotland Tree and Puddle. If you pour all the water from the cooler in Hotland, a small tree will start to grow in the Pacifist ending. Jerry missing in the character cast. As you are focused on reading all of the character credits in the True Pacifist ending, something you may not notice is how Jerry never actually appears in the credits at any point. Open coffins and mummy wrappings. After being Asriel, all coffins are opened up apart from Kara's. When you check, the game says you didn't notice before, but there's something like mummy wrappings at the bottom of it. This means that when the monsters bury the human children, they also probably mummify them. This could also be a symbolism for how the human souls disappeared. The mummy wrappings also make the line, "It's as comfortable as it looks," all the more creepy. Papyrus using an asterisk. A small detail you might not realize is that every character starts with an asterisk. The only exception is Papyrus. The only time he uses it is when he imitates someone. Temmie Chain didn't design Temmie. While Temmies are based on Chain's persona, the design was made by a Twitter artist who never actually saw her and based the design on her personality. Sound_text pap in DeltaRune. When you look into the sound files for Spamton, there is one called sound_text pap. Pap is of course short for Papyrus, meaning that either A, it's a troll, or B, he was going to appear in Chapter 2 but ended up being scrapped, or C, it's for future use. Sans voice clip in Cyberworld spelling puzzles. If you make a spelling mistake, you'll have a small chance of hearing Sans' voice. Gaster is the Knight. Multiple theories suggest that Gaster could possibly be the Knight in DeltaRune. Part of this comes from the idea that Gaster is the one that gives you eggs. How the spectrogram of Mews_smile, as will be mentioned some point later in the Iceberg, may be Gaster riding a horse, and the Knight being mentioned to have using their hand, which Gaster is very well known for speaking with. One version of the theory went on to say that the Mystery Man could be the Light World Gaster, while Redacted is his Dark World form. The Titan Symbol. As many have pointed out, one of the Titans seen in the cutscene where Rouse explains to Roaring has multiple symbols which resemble the eye symbol seen in the first area of the Dark World we encountered. There are many theories and speculation as to what this could mean, and why this symbol appears in the Dark World. Snow on top of all sentry stations. A detail you might not have noticed is that when looking at all the sentry stations, even the ones in Waterfall and Hotland, they all have snow on them. One of the hot dog customers even mentioned how strange it is. A theory is that it's because Sans teleports them like he does. Sweet Cap'n Cake attacks timed with music. Sweet Cap'n Cakes are characters from the cyberworld who are all based on music players. You most likely already knew this, but something you might not have noticed as easily in your first time playing, but you will notice once you memorize their song, is that when you take a look at their moves, the attacks are coordinated with the song playing in this fight. UnderTale Last Breath. UnderTale Last Breath is a fan game which takes the Sans boss fight and gives it 2 extra phases. It also deals with Gaster joining in the fight in Phase 3, and is one of the more influential Undertale fan games. It's also pretty well known due to the meme associated with it, with Gaster telling Sans dying is gay.
Remember, son, dying is gay. Yes, father.
Blue Attack's color change. In version 1.0.0.1, the color of the blue attacks were changed to be deeper to help colorblind players see better. Also UnderTale. The physical cover of the PS4 version of UnderTale has a reversible cover which says, also UnderTale. Don't rip sprite messages. Within the files, there is a message in some sprite sheets that says, please don't upload these huge sprite sheets online. Just because most weird things here are used, I'd rather them be seen in context first. Wait like a year first. If you're just ripping normally seen sprites for Spriter's resource or something, I don't care if you use these to make it easier though. Pink names. In the ruins, there is a froggy who could change the entire mechanics of the game. When you talk to it, it says,
surely you know by now a monster wears a yellow name when you can spare it. What do you think of that?
The options being very helpful or it's bad. If you choose the latter, it says,
really? Then I'll tell all my friends to tell their friends' friends never use yellow names. How about that?
You can choose whether or not to keep the yellow names. After this, the enemies' names can never change to yellow, so you can't tell if they can be spared or not. Once you complete the game without these names and talk to the frog, it will say,
how was your adventure? Must have been difficult without being able to tell the enemy's feelings.
But if you talk to the frog again beforehand, it will say,
how are you doing without yellow names?
You can tell it to bring them back, which he says,
huh? It's rather inconvenient that you changed your mind like this. Since I told everyone not to use yellow names, everyone threw theirs out. Well, last year it was fashionable to have pink names. I think everyone still has those in their closet somewhere. I'll ask everyone to look, but this is the last time!
After this, the enemies' names will be pink instead of yellow. Another fun Easter egg is that after telling the frog to throw away the yellow names, the narration for the garbage in the dumps will say how there's a pile of yellow names in the dump. Along with this, if you beat the game on the pacifist run with pink names and talk to the frog again, he'll say,
finally, we can all remove these aging pink names. Everyone gave you a big favor today. Try to respect that.
UnderTale takes place in the Dark World. The theory suggests that the underground is a dark world. One big piece of evidence is that the stories are very similar, as a kid who falls into a strange world must find a way to escape. However, the theory doesn't really make a whole lot of sense as there's plenty of differences between the underground and the dark world. Especially given that all the character sprites in UnderTale are black and white instead of being full colored like the Darkners. I know UnderTale was made before DeltaRune, but I still feel like that's an important detail to discuss. Flowey equals Kara plus Asriel. While it is true that Flowey is Asriel, we know that before he died, Asriel and Kara's souls were merged into one, so it's possible that Flowey could have been a combination between some of the traits of Asriel and Kara. The dark side of soul traits. Many people have talked about how while the traits associated with the 7 human souls are seen as positive, they can also have a double meaning to them, one positive and one negative. Especially because these traits can have different meanings depending on your POV and morality. I will link Shay's video discussing this topic in the description below. Correct capitalization of UnderTale. Toby has clarified that the correct way to capitalize UnderTale is by capitalizing the U and the T. However, official sources has capitalized UnderTale with only the U, and there have been sources where Toby and others have written it in all caps. DeltaRune inspired by a fever dream. In a Japanese interview on Nintendo's website, Toby had this to say of how he came up with DeltaRune. In 2011, when I was living away from home, while I was in college, I had a flashy illness. I couldn't get any medicine, and when I was sleeping with a high fever, I had a very vivid dream. It was a dream with the ending of the game, and since then I've been obsessed with the idea that I have to make it once in 2012. I really liked the artist Canatines I found on Tumblr, and I used that person's character design, but at that time, I ended up giving up development without completing a single room. However, some of the songs I made at the time became the BGM of UnderTale. For example, the song Heartache was originally titled Joker Battle, and Bone Trazzle was intended to be the main theme of the game. And when the Kickstarter solicited investment in UnderTale 2013, if UnderTale could be completed, the next game would be a mix of UnderTale and that dream concept, I decided. In another interview, Toby said, "I felt like I had to make the game with that ending. I don't even know if it's particularly good, but I have to do it." And with that, we end Tier 3 in the video. Next up, we will tackle Tier 4, and I hope to see you then. Make sure to comment anything I either missed about the entries, as well as any entries you'd like to see added to the iceberg. If you want more personal updates, visit my blog linked in the description below. Until then, see ya, and remember to stay determined.